Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Good evening. Happy Thursday. Thankful Thursday. And we're definitely happy to be here today with so much going on in the world. I'm definitely glad that I'm still on this side of the living. And thank you all again for watching Transplant Talk with Naishanda. August is our multicultural awareness month. And this month, again, I have teamed up with LifeQuest and I am the hostess with the mostest for them. And this month we are bringing you different guests, different views, different opinions, but in all, we want to educate everybody about the need of organ donation. And we know that there's over 100,000 people needing a life-saving transplant. So if everyone registers to become an organ donor, we definitely can help save some of those people. Please remember that Save 1,000 Lives is again in honor of my late husband, Leonard Wayne Larimore, who passed away April 25th, 2018, and this started. We are still in the business of registering people to become organ donors. I already see hellos, hellos, hellos. Hello, Lisa. Hello, everyone. Thank you all for being a part of Transplant Talk with Naishanda. I am again so delighted to be a part of this program with LifeQuest. I appreciate it so much. You all could have asked anybody, but you have me doing it. So I'm totally grateful. So you all know what I need you all to do, right? Hi, my friend. Hello, my friends. Please, everyone, you know I always want to know where's everyone from. So please share where you're from. I know my people are in New York, in California, in Seattle. So please, if you all would just share where everyone is from. And I don't want you to forget to please, would you please, let's do this for me, my three T's, okay? We want to text, tell, tag, share with somebody about this broadcast because tonight we are talking with the chaplains. Now, you know my special people, Michelle and Sandria, right? We know what they endured. We know the decisions their children made to become organ donors, and they continued on with their wishes, right? So today I'm excited to have some chaplains here today, Greg and Kristy, and they're going to share their stories. We also have Miss Jane Wellhoit. I hope I said that right. And so they're here today to talk with us and to share with us what they do and what they see, what they experience as being chaplains. And y'all, they are right there in Florida, but Pensacola. So we're going to Pensacola and they are taking time out of their busy schedule to be with us today. And I'm definitely delighted and happy that they are. So without any further ado, I will bring on the chaplains, Greg and Kristy first. Hello, hello, hello. Can you all hear me all right? Can you? Nope, I can't hear you. I muted you. I had you muted. Thank you, Michelle, for sharing. Please, as many people as possible, please share. So again, today we have the chaplains. Hello from Tallahassee. They are here today with us to help us understand what they do and to give us a picture in the day in life of what a chaplain does and how they are connected with organ donation. So, Greg and Kristy, Greg, you can start first. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Thank you, Nashonda, again for having us today. It's our pleasure to be with you and to continue to further that effort to educate people about the miracles that happen with organ and tissue donation. I am a hospital chaplain. I've been in healthcare for 37 years this year, 22 of that as a chaplain. some other secular employment, working my way through college, and fell in love with this environment, actually as a hospital volunteer in high school. And then I knew I was called to ministry, and eventually God revealed to me that he was calling me to minister in the environment in which I had already been working, and love this environment. As a healthcare chaplain, people ask me all the time, well, what do you do as a chaplain? And ours really is a crisis ministry, able to encounter people every day in what are likely some of the worst days they'll ever face. And our privilege is to come alongside those folks to offer support for them from a spiritual perspective, emotional and spiritual support to come alongside, to lend strength for those difficult days, so that they know they've got a champion, an advocate that's willing to stand beside them and support them as they are, where they are, meeting them in the midst of their crisis, not expecting them to change something about who they are before we're coming alongside, just to love on them. My connection with donation has been always with donor families because of the healthcare institutions in which I've been able to work. And the privilege of standing beside people as they are faced with the opportunity for donation, and helping to encourage them in making that decision to be a donor, to allow their family member to be a hero to so many families that can be directly impacted by their decision, or to honor the choices already been made by that patient ahead of time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And let me say hello very quickly to my father. Hello, Dad and Mom, and to my beautiful grandmother and my beautiful mother. Hello. Thank you all for watching. Make sure that we all text and tag and tell someone and share, because this is one very special. All of the podcasts are special, but this is as special as well. And hello, Tanya. How are you? Hello again, everybody. Okay. So, Kristy, tell us a little bit about your day and what you do in your line of work.
I'm Kristy. And first of all, I want to say thank you. I echo what Greg said. Thank you so much for having us on, Shonda.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
I'm Kristy. I have worked in some area of healthcare since 2009 as a chaplain, but my story actually stretches back to 2007, whenever I, like Greg, was working in an emergency room as a registration person, when God really laid on my heart to and called me into chaplaincy. Mm-hmm. Being a chaplain is joining people in their boat that they get to call life. Whatever that may look like. Sometimes their boat's muddy or dirty or has holes in it and is full of so much, and yet getting to join them in their boat, right where they are in the time of need, is what being a chaplain really is all about. It's about meeting them there and understanding that what they're going through is, like Greg said, something that they never dreamed of, like the most difficult day or the most difficult time that they've likely ever experienced. And we as chaplains get to join them in that.
Now, I know you are a woman of faith, because you're doing what you're doing, and I know to have that strength to go in on a typical day, but to go in every day and do your job. What is a typical day like for you?
A typical day. So a typical day, I don't know that.
It's not a typical day.
Every day is atypical.
I was just fixing to say, define typical. And I'm not saying that mean. I'm just saying, like, typical for us. This thing right here is what kind of solidifies our typical day.
The pager drives
the day. So whatever the pager says or does, that's kind of what we do. And so a typical day could be anything from traumas to codes to rapids, or to just visiting people on our floors, just visiting with people, going from door to door, responding to referrals, responding to things that nurses see or a family request, really going into those rooms and just saying, we're here for you. We want to, if you will allow us the opportunity to, we want to walk this journey with you.
That's beautiful. Now, I haven't experienced this myself when losing, or my husband was passing away. I know they did send a chaplain up, but I'm also a preacher's daughter, and my father is my first teacher and first minister. So I think at that time, while it was happening with my husband, I probably had about 10 ministers in the room. And I needed everyone's prayers, at that time. So I know when you're going in, your heart is in the right place. And I appreciate you saying that you wanted to walk through this, journey with them. And I know that you have to handle them with soft gloves or the velvet gloves, because emotions are high. But Kristy, you are not just a chaplain. You also have your own experience within this realm. So can you share your story?
Absolutely. In 2016, I was diagnosed with an ovarian mass. 2 months after that, after having that removed and them thinking that was cancer and finding out that it wasn't, 2 months later, they found 3 liver masses. Upon finding the 3 liver masses, a journey of about a year came about where they tried to figure out what the largest of the 3 masses really is and was. Fast forward for about 9 months, and I found myself in a transplant center, actually needing to have the largest of the 3 masses removed because of where it was laying and pushing. And right across the hall from me were, as I was preparing for surgery, right across the hallway were 2 people actually awaiting their life-saving transplant. And as I was laying there in the bed, I remember thinking about the fact that these 2 people were likely going to get to go home with their loved one. But there were 2 families somewhere that were leaving the hospital that day and weren't able to take their loved one with them. So my passion and my love for organ donation was birthed in that moment, realizing not just the excitement of the recipient family, but the sadness and the grief that the donor families were walking through.
And with that, you birthed something beautiful as well. Can you tell us about the Walk of Love?
Absolutely. The Walk of Love is a time for us to honor the donor, to walk with the family, and to support our associates who have cared for that donor. The Walk of Love, during it, what happens is our associates will actually line the hallways headed toward the OR. And at the very end of the walk, one of the things that really stood out to me in the moments where I was preparing for that surgery and the love of organ donation was birthed, one of the things that stood out to me was the empty-handedness of the donor families. And one of the things that was really on my heart was, how can we give them something to hold on to? They're giving these 2 families, or 8 families or more, the opportunity to take their loved one home. And sometimes it's less than 8 families, but still it improves the life, or it can improve the life of up to 100.
Right.
And so in the aspect of that, making sure that these families don't leave empty-handed. So in the walk, what we do is we drape a flag like a blanket on the donor. And at the OR doors, our chaplains here at Sacred Heart in Pensacola have created a way to fold the flag that it will actually stay folded. And as the family are saying their final see you laters, because I'm not a fan of goodbyes, I always say see you later.
Mm-hmm.
When they're saying their final see you laters, the chaplain and one of LifeQuest representatives is actually folding the flag. And then as the patient, the donor, is being wheeled through the OR doors, the chaplain will turn and hand that flag to the family of the donor. Wow. As a symbol that they don't have to leave empty-handed. We can't give them their loved one to take home with them, but we can give them something that was touching their loved one, that they can hold on to, and that they can remember the moment that their loved one was wheeled through those OR doors. And they, along with their loved one, gave the gift of life to however many people they were able to give it to.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. That's similar to the military giving a flag to the family for the fallen soldier. So, wow, that's beautiful. And so not only did you start something, but now this is now a tradition in all of the hospitals. Is that correct?
It is actually spreading across the state of Florida for our Ascension hospitals. And the plan is to actually, for it to spread even further than that.
Wow. That was, Kristy, that was very special. Just from your moment being able to birth something so beautiful, I'm pretty sure that they will remember that forever. That is absolutely beautiful. So I have a quick story with pastors, especially in the African American community. I actually went to a meeting July 1st. I want to say maybe it was 2018. I went to this meeting, and the pastor let me know that, he had a daughter that was awaiting the gift of life, and she needed a kidney. But when I went there, they gave me more of the background story. They actually had two daughters. The first daughter they had, I think she had like a brain aneurysm, and they asked them at the hospital, they said, would you allow her to be an organ donor? And the family said no. No matter who approached them, and these are people of faith, no matter who approached them, they said no. Don't ask me. It was uncomfortable. They did not want to have to make that decision. And because she had a good heart, that heart did not go anywhere. Fast forward, I don't know how many years or months later, the other daughter needed a kidney, and she received that kidney in July. So their family was hit twice and was touched by organ donation, and their hearts were so torn because when they had the opportunity for the first daughter to save someone, they could not make that decision. But then it was now time for someone else to save their second daughter. And it just touched their heart. They are now letting people know about organ donation. And this is huge in the African American community because, we always get that question. And, one of the questions, the myth buster, or let's clear this myth up, that it is against my religion, to become an organ donor. How many times have you all heard that?
Right. Far too many times. When we stand with faithful people of, I won't say every, but many different faith groups. And when they're approached with that opportunity to offer that life-saving transplant to a number of different families that are also faithful and praying for the miracle of life for their patient that's on a transplant list. I find people struggling to square their faith with what I believe God has given us through science, the ability to transplant organs. And so many people, as with the family that you talk about, Nishanda, want the life-saving transplant for their family member, but it's much harder to be on that giving side.
Exactly.
And to have people use faith as an excuse frequently to say, I can't, my faith doesn't allow that. I'm glad to help dispel those myths about faith being a barrier to donation. All major faith groups wholeheartedly endorse donation as a way to express charity or love for others.
Right.
When life can't be what we want it to be for us, we have an opportunity to help it be what someone else wants. When we feel like we're not getting the miracle that
Right.
we've been praying for in
Right.
life saving through some avenue for our patient, in that worst moment imaginable, they're asked to be the miracle that someone else is praying for. And when that happens, when I see that click with people, it's really a beautiful thing when they realize that God has provided for someone else, even through their tragedy. The silver lining, if you will, to some pretty dark clouds. Having worked in healthcare for a number of years, and being a very vocal advocate for donation, I continue to be impressed with how people want to tell their stories of donation, and I love hearing them. I just love hearing people's connection. I worked with a nurse educator whose husband had received 2 hearts. He was very rapidly moved to the top of a list because he was so very ill. And he received a heart, and 9 months later, his body rejected that heart. So again, he was terminal and would not have survived very long at all. But again, was able to find a perfect match. He received the second heart, and that he's had at the time that I knew them, had that heart for about 15 years. He received his first transplant when he was in his early 20s. They were newlyweds, and such a miracle for them to be able to receive not 1 heart, but 2 over time. To talk to an administrative secretary about having received a kidney when she was a much younger woman, and how that kidney continued to serve her very well. And her gratitude for someone's selflessness in those very difficult days. And perhaps one that is most dear to my heart is a woman that I worked with whose husband had been on kidney dialysis for a number of years because of kidney failure. And he eventually got placed on the transplant list, was able to receive a kidney when his son was only about 6 months old. And that gift of life allowed him to see his son grow up, graduate from high school, start college, and become the young man that he wanted him to be. It was with that gift that he got 20 more years of life because of complications with other things. Then he lost his life to other medical complications. But to know that he had 20 years, she says, even after her husband died, she says, we didn't lose anything. We gained 20 years because of donation. So for 20 years, they had a picture of their donor sitting on their mantle in their living room, and would correspond frequently with the donor family. would send their Christmas card, their family pictures to the donor family. And those types of stories are not just heartwarming and not just anecdotal, this happens. These are the stories of the miracles of donation, where people get to live full, rich lives because someone else very selflessly said, this is an opportunity for us to change someone's life. And then they embrace that.
Absolutely. Well, let me ask you both this. Do you find that many groups or religious groups adopt a clear definition of, or do they have a clear position, about organ donation?
Most
Yes.
of the major faith groups do. I know that Islam, through several councils with their religious leaders, have put out a strong faith statement to say there's no greater act of charity than that which can save someone else's life. So with a wholehearted endorsement of donation, they've given the blessing for someone to be a donor. Having worked with a donor's family, they were Jehovah's Witness. They were concerned, of course, with their prohibition about receiving blood or blood products. They thought it was also wrong for them to offer a donation that would transplant blood. But because of some very technical processes, the organs are flushed and made as clean as they can be for maximum benefit for the recipient. And in that case, the Jehovah's Witnesses also endorse that as an act of love for a fellow human.
Right. Yeah. Because I did have
I'm Southern Baptist, and the Southern Baptist Convention has passed a statement in our convention a number of years ago with a wholehearted endorsement as well. So I love to see faith leaders embrace that, to give a clear direction to their members that says, yes, love someone by doing for them what they can't do for themselves.
Right. As my dad says, selflessness is what it takes to be an organ donor. It's the selflessness. Thanks, Dad. I love you.
That's a key word.
Go ahead.
That's a key word in organ donation for sure.
Yeah. Right.
It's the selflessness of the donor and the selflessness of the family.
Absolutely, which is still why. But in our community, organ donation is not a dinner table conversation.
Right.
It's not a dinner table. We don't sit to the dinner table and have this conversation, even though it's happening, all around us. A lot of people, still don't know. A lot of people keep it quiet, and don't want others to know. And some people just suffer in silence. And so here's another question. As a chaplain, can you recall an experience where a patient's religious affiliation actively, they just opposed to it? Did they opposed having the organ? Because when I ask people to become an organ donor, I'm told, no, I'd rather die. I would not want someone to do that. And it could be for, whatever reason, they would not want that to happen, which in my life, then I would want you to do that. But have you experienced that where perhaps an organ was available, but they denied it?
You're talking about a recipient denying.
Yeah, right.
Or having worked more with donor families and not in transplant centers, I've not worked with recipient families where they have denied those. I'm sure that probably has happened, but by the point that they've been placed on the transplant list and have gotten ill enough that they are soon to be in consideration for an available organ. I would like to think that wouldn't be the case.
Right.
I have sat with donor families, with coordinators from the local transplant organization, offering that approach, offering that opportunity for donation.
Mm-hmm.
As you asked that question, I had from the donor's family perspective coming to mind, a grandmother just totally opposed. This was an African-American family, and the grandmother says, no, she's not donating anything. She's not going to do it. That's the end of story. Don't ask us again. God gave her everything she needed to live this life, and she needs to take all that to heaven. She needs to be buried with all that. So the coordinator with whom I was sitting as we talked to this family pushed a little bit to ask that question. And the grandmother, who was not a decision maker, if you will, was the loudest voice in the room. And she was the only one that was being heard until the patient's sister spoke up. And she said, but we've talked about this. And she said she would want to be a donor because apparently someone at school, someone at college had needed an organ and it wasn't available in time for her. So she said, if I ever could be a donor, I would want to be a donor. So this young woman's sister sharing the conversation that she had totally changed the grandmother's perspective. But the grandmother made it about faith, made it about our Creator, giving her what she needed to live this life. And I think just in her overwhelming sadness, the grandmother couldn't embrace donation, thinking that instead her granddaughter needed to be buried with those organs that could save lives.
In echoing what he said, there's something about, especially some ethnicities, having that need for wholeness whenever they're buried. Having that need that everything they came into this life with, they need to take out. There's something that in experiences with families that are at that space, are at a time of decision like that. That's one of the things I've heard many times, is the aspect of wanting nothing to be removed because they came into this life with it and they need to take it out. And so the families have expressed an aspect of that's a part of their loved one, and they need that to stay with their loved one because they don't want that taken away, because the loved one's already being quote unquote taken from them. So they want their loved one to be whole if they're going to be taken. So they see it as a taken instead of a gift.
Okay. Wow. And again, just having more education and bringing more awareness to the culture, perhaps that would, help solve, some of the, resistance that people have, in order to become, an organ donor. And your role is to help with the grieving process as well, right? That's correct. Now, do you feel like organ donation helps families heal after losing that one loved one? Do you?
Absolutely. Donor families that I've spoken to have talked about how their gift in those very difficult days for them offered hope that someone else could live. When they talk about their loved one, they talk about the generous spirit, how they would do anything to help anybody. They would stop on the side of the road to change somebody's tire. They would buy somebody's groceries if they thought that they were in significant need. When they talk about that person and talk about how loving and caring they are, that one more gift to mankind is the opportunity to grieve with hope later on. So yes, I find that donation is an incredible opportunity to grieve well. And a story is told, and I'll keep it as short as I can, of a young man or a father who made the decision to donate his daughter's organs, and her heart was given to another young woman. And years later, the donor's father had the opportunity to give away the recipient at her wedding. So he walked her down the aisle and was able to stand in for her, but knowing that his daughter's heart beat in the chest of this other young woman was an incredible story.
I believe I saw that, and it had me in tears when I saw that story. I don't know if it was maybe perhaps Victory Today or Get Through the Week getting through the week on Facebook. But when I saw that story, I thought that was so hard. It was touching. It was just it was just really, really touching when I seen that, and all the different people that might travel across country to go hear the heart, beating, in the other recipient's family. Personally, my uncle's wife in January of last year, I believe she was rushed to the emergency room, and the decision to make her an organ donor was because he knew what I was doing, and he allowed her to become an organ donor and save, maybe 4 or 5 lives. And so I'm grateful for my family for listening and them allowing my aunt
Yes.
To become an organ donor.
So, and then in that, allowing your husband to continue to live on.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. That was and again, this is why I do transplant talk with Nashonda. I love to be able to, I hadn't had any chaplains on to just kind of give, your experience and what you do. And Kristy, I hear your voice. I just want to sit back and maybe just talk to you for a minute, like I'm in therapy, because it's so soothing, and I'm listening, to you and hearing you, and you both have a special gift to be able to go in and comfort the families. It's a special gift. It is a special gift, and everyone has a purpose, and this is your purpose, and this is the plan that God had for you, to be able to be in this position and help people, and to help them through this process, to walk them through this process, and for them to understand, what is happening, and to be able to give someone else the gift of life is what it's all about. So thank you so much for what you do. I definitely appreciate it so much. And I don't know where my other guest went. I don't know what happened to Jane. But I thank her for, just being on the show. So I will not hold you long. Hello, Tony, and hello, Larry. And, I appreciate everyone, watching this show, and again, texting anybody and telling someone, and sharing the broadcast. I thank you all so much for what you're doing. I don't know, it sounds like rain or something that's going on. I'm not sure.
It continues to be our honor to be able to tell the story of donation, and to encourage the conversation, because the more the conversation happens, the more someone else is going to hear and think for themselves whether donation is right for them. There are some people that are just uncomfortable with the conversation, and as that's the case, we want to encourage them to stand where they are, but to encourage them to have that conversation with other people, so that some others may hear and make the decision to be a donor, or to be willing, if that time should come in their family's life, to make a positive decision.
Absolutely. When your child, is beginning to think about driving, or they're entering that age to become a driver out there handling a car, it's something to, start dropping seeds or nuggets so that they understand the position they are in being in that car, you know. So you not only have to look out for yourself, but you have to look out for your others. And I tell people all the time, yes, I'm driving, but I don't always, trust that other person. So before I even get to a stop, I'm saying in my head, stop, stop, stop. So you're making sure that nothing happens and you're not in an accident. But, a lot of people, hopefully their mind has been changed thinking that their religion can stop them from becoming an organ donor. So I hope that message was plain and clear today. And if people would like to register to become an organ donor, please make sure that you go to register me. And I don't want to hold them too long because you saw the pager that they have, and you just never know, when someone might need them. And I know my dad did that, he did an internship. Dad, I hope I'm not telling all your business, but he kind of did did like a little small internship here with me. And I remember him being a little busy and maybe perhaps coming home exhausted one time because it was so much that needed to be done. And he's saying in his next life, he thinks he wants to be a chaplain. So he would be great. He would be good at it because my dad also has that voice where you're like, okay, Dad, we'll we'll
You
listen.
hear the peace. You just hear the peace through his voice. You hear his heart and everything that he says. And I know Kristy would agree with me when I say that as chaplains, it's our honor to stand beside family pastors as they are ministering to families that are facing these very difficult days. And as we can be an extension of the local pastor's ministry to that family, it is such an honor for us to even be able to minister to that pastor, that local minister, because they too were dealing with their own sense of loss.
Absolutely.
That member may have passed, but an incredible ministry and incredible opportunities every day to come alongside folks. And some of those most difficult days are when donation is part of the conversation.
So I have one final question, and it is dealing with COVID. Have you found yourself more busy? I know visits are not the same, but you share with me some of the things that you some of the protocols that you are having to, I guess, realign or change because of COVID. Can you share that with our audience, please?
Sure. Something that we are doing as chaplains with COVID specifically is we're using a lot of virtual care. Virtual care has become a huge part of care across hospitals around the nation.
Right.
And something that we've been able to utilize for protection's sake is virtual care. So we either use a telephone, which allows us to call into the room, or we use an iPad, and we have a special system that we can actually call into the room and talk with them. To answer the part of the question, has it been more busy? The short answer is absolutely. It has been much more busy. At the same time, I'm pretty sure Greg would agree with me. It's been, as crazy as this might sound, it's a blessing to get to do what we get to do every day, even in the midst of a pandemic that has changed the lives of so many people. To get to walk their life's journey with them is such a blessing. As scary, and we've both had times of being with families on the phone as loved ones are in those final moments. And being able to even journey through that piece of virtual care has been huge.
Wow. To be the person that could be close to the bedside when someone's dying, because out of necessity, hospital policy has prohibited any visitors in the hospital. And to be the one who can be close for non-COVID patients alike. COVID has just affected the way hospitals do business in a tremendous way. But ours is the opportunity to be in the hospital, close to the bedside, and again, being that, I don't want to say substitute, but that extension of the local church's ministry, to be that loving person who can hold a hand. And when we can't be in the rooms for our own safety with a COVID patient, to see nurses that have gone in and would sit and hold a hand and pray with and sing songs to patients in those last moments. It's just been a beautiful experience. So a blessing in the midst of a pandemic.
Wow. Oh, I'm not a chaplain. That's definitely not my ministry. You guys are a beautiful spirit, beautiful souls to be there in those times. And we pray for those patients that are in there alone. And, that's real heavy. I could not imagine my husband leaving this world and him not having, I promise you, it might have been about 30, 40 people. I'm not exaggerating, in the room when my husband was transitioning. So my heart goes out to those families that are dealing with that crisis and, dealing with COVID. I just want it to be over. I want it to be gone, because so many lives are being touched and so many lives are being changed. So I'm going to stop, because it just makes me emotional to think that people are.
And, you said a key word whenever you said alone. That's a key word that this pandemic has caused a lot of people to feel alone, to feel isolated, and to have families separated in those final moments. That's something else that virtual care piece has allowed us to be, as Greg said, close to the bedside, as close as we possibly can be to the bedside, to let their family member know, you may not be able to be right here, but we're right here. And we're an extension of you. We can't take the place of you, but we're here with your loved one.
And to facilitate sometimes where we've modeled how that virtual presence can help a patient. The story comes to mind of a colleague whose elderly patient was actively dying, and his wife couldn't be there, but she came into our office and sat down and talked on a video chat with her husband. As the chaplain facilitated that, because she was so intimidated by technology. She said, I can't do that. But because of that chaplain's efforts, the woman was able to spend her husband's last moments with him virtually, talking to him and he to her up until the last moment of his life. It was a beautiful example of what we get to do in chaplaincy, and that's our privilege. But that's the nature of this ministry, and I'm thankful for the opportunities that come every day.
I thank you all from the bottom of my heart for being that link in the chain for that family. Thank you all. Thank you so very much. That's heavy. I didn't think it would be. That's really heavy. That's really heavy to be that. What an awesome job that you're doing. And again, thank you all so much. I promise again, I would not hold you long. So thank you. I know there's a few more comments coming in. Yes, virtually is effective. Yes. What are you sharing tonight? Touching the lives and impactful. Thank you, Dad. Thank you, my dad. See, my dad. That's why he's my dad. So thank you all so much. I'm going to close out the show, and you guys were just awesome. God bless you all, and continue to be safe in the line of work that you're doing amongst this pandemic. Thank you so much, Greg and Kristy. Thank you very much.
Thank you for
Thank
having
you.
us.
Thank you for what you continue to do.
Yes.
Thank you. I'm just going to put you all backstage real quick, and I'm going to close out the show. So
Okay.
stay right there if you can. Hopefully
you
you
so
don't get a
much.
call. Thank you. Okay, everyone. Thank you all so much for watching. Dr. Dixon, thank you all so much. Yes, ma'am, we definitely need this in the African American community. Thank you, thank you, thank you, Jazzy. Thank you, thank you. Thank you all for watching. Okay, so next week, I already have my guest lined up again. Live Quest says we're going to have a great partnership. I am telling you, we're going to have a great partnership. And next week we have SODA. And what does SODA stand for? Student Organ Donor Advocates. And these are young people in the colleges and in the high schools that are going out and sharing more experience about organ donation. So until next week, guys, and all of your get understanding, become an organ donor, and help make this impossible mission possible. God bless you. Good night. All right. Good night, everybody. Good night. Good night. Thank you.